Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings and salutations, friends. This is your Hempy host, Tyler Hemp with HempAware Radio. It's another amazing day in the beautiful golden green state of California. We're here to empower your hemposphere and focus on what's important. There's so many amazing topics when it comes to cannabis and hemp. We could, discuss health, economics, agriculture, fashion, fuel and energy, plastics and composites, building materials. But today, we're going to get into a spiritual and religious conversation on the topic of cannabis and hemp. And to do this with me, I have a very good friend of mine, cannabis and hemp entrepreneur, amazing graphic and physical artist, Michael M. One of his websites is digitalhemp.com. You can also visit artistmichaelm.com. And among several other websites, which I'll be happy to share with you, or you can see here on this post. And I cannot say enough about how amazing this man is. He's really a genius. And if any of you have met him, you know what I'm talking about. He's such a kind-hearted, playful, intelligent man that's just done so many amazing things to contribute to the hemp and cannabis movement. He's, rubbed shoulders with all the hemp heads in the world and and spirituality with you. Are you on the line now?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Blessings.
Wonderful.
You kind of dropped out a couple of times, but everything's good.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're going to talk about cannabis, hemp, and spirituality or religion. And just so our listeners know, you and I both are wordsmiths. We love words and the origins of words and playing with words. And before we get into our show, I just wanted to mention the origin of the word religion for our listeners. If you break it down, it's R-E, which is a prefix for something to do again or to repeat. And legion, or religious, comes from ligare, which means to join, like as a ligament. So religion, the word religion means to rejoin. And so I think the foundation of all religions, their purpose was to rejoin our consciousness with our superconsciousness. And so religion to me is really just refocusing our attention back on that infinite, unfathomable, undescribable aspect of our infinite nature. And so cannabis, I would love, for you, Michael M., to share what is the word cannabis, maybe define the word cannabis. I know you know some really cool sayings and some origins. So now that I've defined religion, what is the word cannabis? Can you tell us that word as far as its roots?
Sure. It's an ancient Greek word based on an ancient Egyptian phrase. Canna, with a K, actually reads canine in ancient Greek. The bis or bi, obviously, is two. So it says the two-dog plant from the two-dog star. It's actually embedded in the name that it's extraterrestrial.
Wow. So it's been said that the Dogon tribe of Africa stated that they felt that they were gifted the cannabis plant from the star system Sirius, right?
Yes, according to their legend, the Poe people, that's P as in Peter O, came, which were half fish and half human. The goddess of that star system brought it to us. Now, the ancient Egyptians referred to her as Shashat. And she blessed us with cannabis and told us to use it for every single reason on earth: paper, fabric, fuel, food, medicine, paints, varnishes, lamp oil, sealants, and more. But it must be used in prayer. It gains the attention of the divine, which kind of answers why most prayers don't go or go unanswered today, because they're not including that vital incense or nectar centra that the divine requires.
How interesting. And to kind of revisit this idea of cannabis coming from Sirius, you're saying the word canna comes from canine and bis, meaning two, or a binary system. I guess Sirius is a binary star system, and it turns out that it's in the constellation Canis Major. So that totally makes sense that it's completely connected.
Exactly. It is the point of origin, and it is one of our closest stars. There's only one star closer to us. They're the Sirius, or the two-dog star, is literally within our stellar neighborhood. It's 8.8 light years away. So it lends credence, and it is the brightest star in the winter sky, so of course that would attract the eye of our ancestors without question.
Wow. So let's talk about why it's important, because I don't hear people talking about religious freedom for hemp, and you're somebody that has really focused on providing knowledge, information, tools, resources, and ways to really be able to have our rights as human beings, our human unalienable rights to consume a plant, an herb bearing or a seed bearing herb. So why do you think it's so important to speak up and take action about cannabis freedom, as it relates to religious freedom?
Because the laws will never change unless we do something about it. And the federal law is locked in place, has been for since 1937. During the alcohol prohibition, by the way, 4 years before the alcohol prohibition, the alcohol was called the clean fuel of the future in 1914. By 1919, it was illegal. And really what that was about was to get the farmers to stop making their own fuel from hemp, which took them out of the energy game and solidified the toxic fossil oil corporations to be able to lock down the price. They call the price because the farmer isn't in on it. Once the farmer's in on the energy, commodities, and exchange markets, our futures markets, that whole scenario changes. It literally decentralizes power worldwide. That is a very powerful thing that we can do, but we must do it outside of the law as it is written. The only way we can do that now is in 2006, the Supreme Court unanimous decision allows us to use any Schedule I drug as long as it's for religious intent, and you must declare it. Now, to declare it, it is as simple as a masking tape on a baggie with your sacrament rolled up inside, and in Sharpie pen, it's written Religious Cannabis. Those are the magic words. When you put those two words together, you're in federal compliance, and you are protected in all 50 states because of your First Amendment right to your religious freedom.
Interesting.
Now, the ancient Egyptians mandated cannabis use in prayer over 5,000 years ago. It never stopped, and it's still a viable religion that existed for 5,000 years minimum. So we based our belief system on that, on the ancient Egyptian religion, because they were practically the only ones that thought to mandate it.
Interesting. So it was required to integrate cannabis as their sacred incense in prayer and in meditation.
As a matter of fact, I apologize. As a matter of fact, in every a temple, they burnt 9 pounds of cannabis a day. Each hour, they would change the ingredients on the top, but it was always cannabis-based. And there were 24 different flavors or scents that would emanate from the temple. So after a few weeks or so, you would understand what hour you were in by the scent that was emanating from the temple.
How
I call
fascinating.
that very civilized.
Right. Wow, that is awesome. I'm fascinated by that. So let's talk.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right. Well, I was talking.
Yeah, finish your thought.
I'm going to let you go.
Well, I just wanted to talk, more about how people can learn. You've described this Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I know you're an amazing web designer. You've got multiple websites. Can you, before we go on to the other topics, what are some websites our listeners can visit and start learning about religious freedom and how to start declaring their religious freedom to utilize cannabis?
You can start with divinesmoke.com.
Okay.
And then there's, for those that are deeply involved in it, you can go to cannabisclergy.com.
Okay.
The definition, by the way, between religious or religion and spirituality is that in religion it's the belief in someone else's experience, and spirituality is the belief in your own spirituality, in your own experience. So there's a separation.
You're absolutely right, and I, being a studier of words, the word spirit, as I believe Michael M., ultimately comes from the word breath. And so we're all spiritual by nature because we're all breathing. We're all inspired. We're all taking a deep breath in, and when we stop breathing, we expire. And the system that we do this with is called our respiratory system. And so it's pretty fascinating to note that for seemingly thousands of years, people have been inhaling cannabis for their spiritual practice.
As a matter of fact, the ancient Egyptians, with Shushat, she was called the goddess of the 7 points. Her slogan, she was the goddess of hemp, measurement, mathematics, and education. And she consorts with Thoth, where we get the word thought from. So thought and cannabis consort with each other, which was the message back then. She was the goddess that would. Her slogan was, "She who opens the doors of heaven for you."
Wow, it's quite a title.
So what a great slogan.
Absolutely. And so I want to kind of bring up a topic that I know a lot of people are wanting clarification on, which is cannabis for medicine versus cannabis for industry. Now, where you're coming from and with this whole religious or spiritual approach, you're saying, look, it's not just about religious freedom of cannabis for spiritual practice and inhaling the psychoactive components of the plant, but you're saying, no, we also need a religious freedom for the industrial applications, for paper and for clothing and for fuel and for fiber. How do you see that playing out? And how does hemp relate to religious freedom for industrial purposes?
Okay. First of all, when you grow for religion, you have to label it, which means you have to literally tag each plant and call it religious cannabis. Now, when you're growing it for the industrial version of it, then that's also part of a belief system. You're growing it for, hemp is called Schedule 1, so we're not allowed to grow it. But if you claim it as religious, all you have to do is put a sign up in your field saying religious hemp field. or religious hemp. All you have to do is declare it. Now we can start, like the Amish, we could start growing hemp all across the country and never change the law. We would build religious hemp processing plants, and we would do it as part of commerce without a problem with that. Let me explain that real quick. The Hobby Lobby decision by the Supreme Court in 2014 reaffirmed the Religious Restoration Act of 1993, and what it does. Again, all you have to do is declare it. If you put that, like I said, that tape, masking tape on a baggie that reads religious cannabis, you put that, it'll be TSC approved. They will ignore it because it says religious. Any law enforcement that sees religious cannabis must turn around and walk away, meaning the law enforcement can't come on to the farmer's field. It's growing hemp.
So have you actually seen this in action? I mean, most people in my mind are going to think, well, we can do that, but is it really going to be, are they going to abide by these religious freedom and these acts that have been, put in place? Are there people that have kind of tried to do this, or they attempted it, but they were still squelched because they did it wrong? Like, is there a way that do you have to be able to enforce your rights after the fact? Let's say somebody gets pulled over and they have a baggie that says religious cannabis. Are they, is that the end all, or do they have to have a full backing, as far as maybe an affidavit of truth or submitting something to the state or to the federal government, or like how far do you have to go to really protect yourself and enforce these rights, or protect them?
Okay, let's go back to the alcohol prohibition. The Catholic Church during the alcohol prohibition was allowed to import their sacrament. They were allowed to. They selected wineries that produced their sacramental grade of wine, and then those groups cross state, county, and city lines to get it to the faithful. Well, we have the same rights. Alcohol and wine, or hemp, if you will. Alcohol, wine, and hemp, or cannabis, whichever you want to call it, is on the same altar. We, no one has, to this date that I know of, has actually done that, using religion as their way. I'm suggesting that is the way we're going to overgrow the law, if we call it religious. And, you got to feel that religion inside of you, or that spirituality inside you, before you actually go ahead and do it, because it does take a leap of faith. But it is our First Amendment right to our sacrament. And if we can use our sacrament in commerce, as wine is used in commerce as well, there is absolutely no reason why we can't do it. And to be honest with you, we always say in our websites, check with a lawyer. Always get your ducks in a row before it happens. That way you're protected.
So if you have a sincerely held religious belief that cannabis is a part of your sacrament and a part of your religious practice, you're saying that everything is already put in place. There's no laws that have to change. Nothing has to change except for you. You have to declare it. That's all that needs, basically, you're saying, and to make sure you know what you're doing by contacting a qualified professional or a lawyer to make sure your ducks are in a row ahead of time.
Exactly. That's the point. Always make sure that you're covered. Soon, after this is done over and over and over again, most people get the courage to go ahead and do it. But that's the way around the law. That's how we outgrow the law. We outgrow it with as a spiritual awakening, or reawakening, if you will. A revival.
Fascinating. Right. a renaissance. So
exactly. To
exactly, to rebirth. So I'm really thankful to have you on today's show. We just have about 10 minutes left, so I have a few more questions. I'm curious, Michael M., who are some of your greatest teachers and some of your biggest inspirations in the hemp movement?
Wow. They actually started before the hemp movement, but Jack Herer was the first person I've ever met that was bigger than life. That had all the information down pat, like an actor knowing their lines. It was ingrained in him. I can only focus on Jack right now because I'm gaining strength from his spirit. I gotta say, his persistence and stick-to-itiveness was so powerful. I've never seen someone so focused, and I imagine that all the others that I'm as an artist, I'm a portrait artist. I did portraits of the people that kind of led the way, and I'm still missing a couple of them. But Bob Marley was one, and Gandhi was another, and the Dalai Lama. By the way, Dalai Lama means Lamb of God. So let's see. The
same name as
what
Christ.
We're doing. We're encouraging the distribution points or dispensaries to go religious. That way, they will expand their donor base exponentially. So there is a reason to do it. But they'd have to reorganize and under a religious deal. But I'm telling you, this is going to cause the green revolution.
Wow. So where do you see the hemp industry and the cannabis industry, where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
Well, let's put it this way. We're gathering signatures for the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative. CCHI2016.org. Go there right now, and we're going to it's full on re-legalization, just the way it was before the racist law. It is a racist law because the drug czar who wrote it was quoted as saying, well, 75 years ago, it was illegal for a non-white to look at a white person in the eye. They couldn't step on their shadow, and God forbid if they were caught staring at a white woman that was raped, and they were thrown in prison for the rest of their life. Harry Anslinger was quoted as saying, look at those Negroes, those Mexicans, and those Orientals. They're smoking marijuana. They're stepping on our shadows. They're looking at us right in the eye, and they're taking our white women into jazz clubs, and they tap their feet. So, racist law all the way. We have to recognize it and strike it down as such. But beyond that, what we have to do is start growing. The whole entire Pacific Rim is looking at California for our hemp. We could have a green engine, economic engine, roaring for gaining trillions of dollars over the next 10 years. That's how I see it.
Wonderful. And you see it happening specifically, you want this to be a religious freedom so that if somebody starts a ministries or they start a nonprofit type church or something of that nature, and they get the status of a ministries and they go under the auspices of, look, this is part of our practice. We're going to be making hemp paper religiously. We're going to be making hemp clothing, hemp foods, and we're also going to incorporate medicinal cannabis into our practices. And we're going to do this because we have a religious freedom. You're seeing that being the most economic viable way of doing it, or do you see it kind of commingling with other approaches, like taking the Schedule I taking cannabis off of the Schedule 1. Do you see that happening and the federal government reclassifying it? Or do you think we can just do it even if they don't reclassify it?
Even if they don't reclassify it, it's still a religious belief, no matter what. If it's taken off of Schedule 1, we won. Actually, all of the Schedule 1s will be taken off eventually, but that's another story. I really want to, if we have a couple of minutes, I want to get down into the origin of the religion, how deep, philosophically and spiritually, my belief system
and astrologically. Yes, we have about 4 minutes. Please empower us.
Wonderful. This is probably this is the best way to describe how deep my faith is. I gave you the word cannabis, broke it down, the two-dog plant from the two-dog star. The ancient Egyptians called it that. Okay, they practiced their religion for 5,000 years without a problem. So when I say without a problem, of course there were problems, but that I'm saying the spiritual connection with cannabis never stopped, and that was never a problem. Okay, you break the word down, cannabis. It's two-dog star, or it comes from the two-dog star. It's embedded in the name that it's extraterrestrial. Hemp is the only natural fiber on Earth that twists to the left. All other natural fibers are right-handed. You cannot graft hemp with any fibrous plant other than hops because of the opposite twist. By the way, that's where we get hemp beer from. The question is, does its DNA twist to the left? If it does, then it lends credence to the ancient myths, because 99.99999 of all DNA on Earth is right-handed. Now, the University of Mexico in 2012 cracked open a meteor, and they found embedded in the meteor a trichome, a THC molecule. They didn't publish it because they were afraid of their reputation. University of Mexico and marijuana, they didn't want to print. They didn't go to publish. But 2 years later, in 2014, the University of Hawaii did the same experiment on another meteor, and they found another trichome embedded in it, twisting to the left.
Wow.
Now, just a side note here: is that the reason why we always pass to the left, even though most of us are right-handed?
Right.
Okay.
Or left, I should
here's
say.
the end. Here's the end of it. In the quantum mechanics, the M theory, the combo superstring combo theories, the math says that if the math is true, there is one universe comes into play, it plays itself out, it goes away, and another one comes into play. Now, if you're an advanced enough civilization, you will be able. Let me preface this. Most of the universes cannot produce life. Only a small spectrum. Now, if you're an advanced civilization and the one that's failing, you can then send a code that will set the groundwork for it to be life-friendly. Or okay,
able to produce life. And we just have about 45 seconds.
Okay. Go to quickly. I believe that cannabis is that code, is a part of that code. That's how deep my faith goes. And you can go to cannabisclergy.com. If you want to start your own religion or your own church, go there. We offer it for free.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. This is your host, Tyler Hemp, with HempAware Radio. Check us out, hempaware.com/radio, or you can listen to all the archived podcasts on the iTunes podcast library. Love and appreciate you, Michael M. Thank you so much for empowering our listeners.
Yes, I. Many thanks and blessings to all of our journeys.
Amen. Bye-bye.